Gary Lineker is back this weekend presenting Match of the Day after beating the BBC in a contest that developed over his tweets over the illegal migration bill. Lineker had tweeted that the clearly draconian government move to automatically imprison and then pack off to Rwanda or some other safe country any migrants arriving in Britain for shelter, to deny them the right to judicial appeal or the right to ever return, was like the Nazi German policy of the 1930s. BBC suspended Lineker over that tweet and took him off presenting Match of the Day, the Saturday football game that he's been presenting since 1999.
Have you spoken to Tim Davie yet, Mr. Lineker?
I'm going to walk my dog and I'm going to do my shopping, so would you mind letting me do it on my own?
Just to the end of the road, if that's all right, Gary.
Okay.
Have you spoken to the BBC yet, Gary?
Yeah.
Gary, just give us a
Is this
couple
the
of frames
end of your presenting career, Mr. Lineker?
You'll get run over, be careful.
Have you come to any sort of agreement with the BBC yet, Mr. Lineker?
Can't say anything at the moment, sorry.
Stood his ground, refused to withdraw his tweet, and the BBC was forced to back down. And that has now brought Lineker back. And the BBC, in fact, has announced that it is reviewing its policy over social media and expressions on it. The BBC had declared earlier that Lineker had broken its rules over this.
What we've agreed, and I've spent time talking to Gary, and we've had lots of discussion, is that between now and when the review reports, Gary will abide by the editorial guidelines, and that's where we are. There's been no easy answers. It's been tough to get the balance right, but asking Gary Lineker to step aside, I think, was appropriate at that moment. Then we reset and we do the things we've laid out in this agreement, which I think are right, and we go forward.
Lineker is back and he has now restated his earlier position on return. He says that the last few days have been difficult for him, no doubt, but cannot compare with having to flee home from persecution or war to seek refuge in a distant country. Britain, he said, is a country of predominantly tolerant, welcoming and generous people. He says it was heartwarming to have seen empathy for the plight of these people from so many. The flood of messages of support for Lineker has now doubled as support for the cause of those arriving to seek refuge, and they have received support from a rather unexpected and influential source. Lineker could have done much to change the mood, to an extent at least, over this controversial issue, and the government could find itself running into more popular opposition to its moves than it was expecting to earlier.